gasp at, and I do because I'm about to jump into one of those categories. Well, okay, got a few years. But the number of Coloradans over the age of 60 has grown 49% in the last 10 years. And I think it's really important to point out that the average cost of Medicaid for a senior is $21,000 because most of that goes to provide long-term care in nursing homes or other kinds of long-term care facilities. And child-only care costs about $1,700. So as we age, we get more expensive in terms of providing health care. Now that's where we are. Let's talk about the future just a little bit. I want to go back to the University of Denver study. They said that on February 25th in the study they released that growth in Medicaid, education, and corrections, which I didn't talk about, spending will outpace revenue growth through fiscal year 24-25. As a result, the revenue available for the remainder of the general fund activities, that's everything but those three, will drop about 60%. In 2010 constant dollars, the amount of general fund available on a per capita basis will shrink about 60% from the 2008 levels by 24-25. I think the most important thing that the University of Denver study said, and that is we cannot grow our way out of this problem. We have either got to get under control the spending that I just talked about, or we have to do something on the revenue side. So let's talk about revenue for just a minute. Oh, I forgot to give you that slide, sorry. My organization and the National Conference of State Legislatures, when we think about tax policy, we think about three primary principles. The first being a principle of adequacy. Does the revenue system generate enough money to support budget outlays? That's not what somebody wants. It's what you're committed to funding. Does the current revenue system generate enough money for that? Secondly, how equitable is the system? Is it fair across who pays? And third, is it sustainable? Sustainable particularly across economic conditions. Let's talk about adequacy first. Fiscal Stability Commission, which is a legislative group, talked about two different ways of talking about adequacy based upon what's currently required in the system. A middle scenario would require an increase of $2.4 billion annually in spending, and an ideal scenario where we would have a competitive higher education system, a K-12 system that actually funded all the things, all the laws that were on the books, and we fully funded Medicaid and transportation programs, would result in an increase of $9.271 billion annually in our general fund. Let me just give you a little context here. Currently, remember I talked about the total budget's $19 billion? Current general fund is about $7.2 billion. Okay? Not advocating for this, I'm just telling you what the data says. There's a whole bunch of individual programs that have estimates, and I'm going to show you a slide about that in just a second. So I'm going to do that. Oh, sorry, I'm not keeping up with myself. So this is what I'm reading from. I want to show you another slide. This is a slide I'm not sure you can read anyway, but this talks about individual programs. Because I'm going to run out of time, I'm not going to go through this, but like I said, everybody, I will make this available. If you look at simply national averages, what does everybody pay? What does everybody spend in other states? To reach an average tax level per $1,000 of income, we would have $4.3 billion more to spend in the state of Colorado if we paid average state taxes. If we did average spending, if we went to the U.S. average, we'd be spending $4.8 billion more, and if we went to the 25th, we'd be spending $6.2 billion more annually. Okay? It's that national average slide. Let's talk about state comparisons in taxes. Colorado ranks 49th in state taxes per $1,000 of income. We rank 44th in state and local taxes per $1,000 of income. I heard somebody say, yay, maybe that's exactly where we want to be. I'm not here advocating one place or another. I'm just trying to provide some facts. Let's talk about equity. Let's talk about who pays. This is a chart that demonstrates by percentile, by percentage of income, what percentage different groups pay in taxes. Okay? So if you look on the far left, I don't know if you can read this or not, but it says lowest 20%. The far side is the top 1%. In the state of Colorado, the lowest 20% earners, of taxpayers, pay 9% of their income in taxes. People in the top 1% pay just over 4%. I'm going to step away from here because I want to point at something. I don't think I have a cool pointer. Oh, I do have a cool pointer. No, I don't have a cool pointer. Oh no, now I'm never going to get rid of that. Let's see. Uh-oh. Well, that may stay there forever. Just a minute. I want to show you something. This bar, the red one, represents the percentage of income paid in sales and use taxes. The green bar is property taxes. The blue bar is income taxes. The shaded big tall column is the addition of all of them. These are state and local taxes together. Everybody understand? Did I explain that in a way that makes sense? Uh-oh. But let's be clear. Let's talk about who pays taxes. Right? We know percentage of income, folks in the lowest income pay the highest percentage. They pay the largest share of their income in taxes. But when you look at who actually pays taxes in the state of Colorado, and that is the blue bar, the bright blue bar, folks at making more than $100,000 a year pay most of the taxes. Now, people making more than $100,000 a year earn about 49, almost 50% of total income in the state of Colorado, and they pay about 44.7% of taxes. So does that make sense to everybody?
Is that household or is that individual?
These are families, so it's probably household. Okay? Let's talk about sustainability for a minute. The University of Denver study also talked about productivity, the productivity index of taxes, and what they concluded is that for as income goes up, the amount of taxes that gets generated from that increase in income is less than it used to be. Right? That's a productivity index. And the reason is because we've lowered tax rates, income tax rates and sales tax rates at the state level. We've exempted more income and more purchases from taxation. And we have other leakage in the system, and that includes the fact that everybody buys more stuff on the internet, and we don't tax internet. And everybody purchases a lot of services these days, and we don't tax services through our sales and use tax, sales and excise taxes. This shows you the same thing as a productivity index. It just shows up there, but you can't see it. Taxes have fallen. This is what's happened with state taxes, individual income, sales, corporate, gas, liquor. All of them have fallen except tobacco over the last 10 years. I'll go back to that if you want to look. I'm trying to get through this so that we can finish and get to the questions. There's also, we've become more volatile. We have a very volatile tax system. It moves a lot with the economy, so we get whipsawed by national economic activity more today than we did 20 years ago, and more than most other states do. So that's another problem that we need to think about as we're thinking about how to solve these problems. Options for revenue. There aren't really very many of them. We can look at individual income tax options or corporate income tax options. We can raise the single rate, which I told you at the beginning is 4.63% now. We can move to a graduated tax system where folks making higher incomes or higher income is taxed at a higher rate and lower income is taxed at a lower rate. That's an option we as voters have if we choose to do that. We can eliminate some of the exemptions that are currently available. We can decouple from federal income taxes. Do you know currently the way we pay our taxes is based on federal taxable income, and every time Congress takes something off the taxable income category, it means it costs the state of Colorado money. We could change that as well if we wanted to. In terms of sales tax, the second biggest of these taxes, we could raise the rate. We could eliminate exemptions. Do you know what the biggest exemption from sales tax is? Groceries. There is no state income tax on the purchase of groceries. We could eliminate that, or we could eliminate it on prescription drugs. We could do things that way if we chose. Or we could change the base, and we could start to tax services. And we could also do some things, and when the legislature started to do some things about taxing internet sales. On the property tax, there is no state property tax. You all know that, right? Prohibited by Constitution to have a statewide property tax, but we as voters, we're the decision makers. We could change that if we wanted to, and we could impose a state property tax. We could impose a state property tax and change the basis. So we could talk about paying property taxes on the actual value of our homes or businesses versus the assessed value. All of those things are available as options to us if we chose to do those things. We could change the severance tax by increasing the rate or getting rid of some of the exemptions or increasing the size or decreasing the exemptions in the size of wells. We could increase the gas tax. We haven't increased the gas tax in the state of Colorado since 1988. It has 40 cents on a dollar of purchasing power. It did when it was adopted. We could change that. We could impose a sales tax on motor fuels taxes. Or the one that I'm going to end with, because I think it is the least popular of all, we could increase alcohol taxes. Now, former Senator Anderson was in the Denver Post talking about this, and that's one of the things they talk about. It just shows just what a brave woman she is. Stands up in front of a group of people, or in front of in a newspaper, and talks about raising taxes on beer and wine. Way to go. I hope I have laid a foundation for understanding of what the situation is without advocating one way or another for what you think you should do. And now I think it's time that we turn to our panelists based upon this data and the expertise they bring to the process and ask them a couple of questions. Here's the quick rules on this. I'm going to give everybody the first question. Everybody's going to have 2 minutes to answer. Larry's right over here with a timer, and he's going to make sure that we stay on time. And so all 4 of you are going to have an opportunity to have 2 minutes, and then we're going to have another question. Is that fair? Make sense? Is that your expectations? Are you ready? All right, let's start. Here's the first question. How would you describe the current fiscal and budget situation facing Lakewood and the state of Colorado? Would you call it a crisis, a minor problem, a major problem? Would you use some other adjective, and why? Norma, it looks like you have the microphone. Why don't you start?
Yeah, I think can you hear me all right? Okay. I think the gentleman up here decided ladies first. I don't believe it's a crisis. To me, a crisis is an earthquake, floods, deep depression, like back in the stock market fall in '29. But this is a major problem for the state. While I was there, we went through 3 downsides and had to do different things to be able to fund everything. I was there before Tabor and after Tabor. So, but the major problem is the economic status that we're in currently. When Ref C was passed, we'd have probably been out of the downturn, but that Ref C money only lasted 3 years. And then, boom, down we went again. It wasn't a 5-year boom like everybody thought it would be. Higher ed is a major factor in this state because it's an economic driver. And K-12 is our future, and we need to focus more on those. But they're really not protected, either one. Carol said, is the blue okay? I don't know which one I can't see it. You just yell at me, okay? It's difficult to achieve, but K-12, only the base number is protected in the Constitution for each student. It is not the entire act. I know, I wrote it. And so we do have to find some answers for that. We have thorough and uniform. We're going to be open for lawsuits. And the federal debt is a big problem. I take it I'm done.
Am I on?